The USA is today, and has been since the Civil War, a nation of lever-action rifles. Over its long time of existence, the lever guns have run out some repeaters that are just the best ever produced and still available today. You get many of them factory new, but if you want something with some history, go for the used guns. They all come with scars and wear. You can even have them restored if you want without losing the story behind them. Take a look at the 10 best of them. Number 10, Henry Repeating Rifle. Here's the gun that started it all. Officially designed in 1860, it became widely available a few years later. Being used in small numbers in the Civil War, it introduced the concept that is known today as the superiority of fire. John Mosby, a Confederate colonel, said of them that they can be loaded on Sunday and fired all week. Some 8,000 of them were actually used by Union soldiers, but less than 2,000 of these were paid for by the government. The rest were private purchases by those soldiers with enough financial means at their disposal. Compare the Henry repeating rifle with a common gun of these days. For example, the Springfield rifle musket. The advantages become blatantly obvious. A skilled soldier braving enemy fire could at best fire 3 rounds with the musket in any given minute. The Henry repeating rifle held 15 rounds in its tubular magazine. Not only could they all be expanded in less than 1 minute, a skilled shooter could also reload and send off another deadly salvo for a total of 24 shots in 1 minute. Such a volume of fire compensated for the rather weak cartridges this rifle used. They were made of copper at first and of brass later. They were not very big to allow for a high capacity, and they used black powder, a comparatively weak propellant. The caliber was .44, and the cartridges used a rimfire primer. This all paired with a rifle that was not very robust to begin with, made for a rather disappointing firepower round by round. That limited the useful range to 150 yards or less. However, it was not the power of every single round that counted, but the amount of them being sent downrange. Along this, rate of fire made this gun so attractive that soldiers bought it despite it costing $40 at the time. In comparison, a corporal in the Union Army earned as an average $13 a month. This alone speaks for the impression this gun made in these days. Number 9, Winchester Model 1866. The name of the Winchester Model 1866 is no coincidence. The rifle was designed by Oliver F. Winchester. During the Civil War, he took over the New Haven Arms Company. In 1866, he changed its name to Winchester Repeating Arms. The Model 1866 came with a magazine holding 14 rounds of .44 rimfire ammunition. Its frame was made from a distinctive brass alloy. Most importantly, it introduced some mechanical improvements over the Henry rifle. Also, a loading gate was added. The magazine tube was reinforced by a wooden forend, which also made it easier to hold and point the gun. This is even more so the case when you keep the little nub on the follower in mind that in the Henry rifle travels down the length of the tubular magazine with every round loaded. Not only did this mean that dirt could enter the gun, you also had to shift your grip to allow the follower to travel on. With the Model 1866, this was a thing of the past. Because of its distinctive frame, the Native Americans called this rifle the Yellow Boy. At Little Bighorn, the Sioux and Cheyenne used quite a number of them. They were superior to the Model 1873 Springfield Cavalry carbine chambered in .45-70 that the soldiers used. The Model 1866 was produced until 1899. A total of 720,000 were manufactured. Number 8, Winchester Model 1873. Here it is, the gun that won the West. This title was introduced by Winchester Repeating Arms, and it might actually be right. This rifle was available when the West was really wild. The Model 73 was the lever-action gun that was at a time just the first and best choice. Following the Model 1866, it came with an iron frame instead of one made of brass. That gave it much-needed strength. It allowed to get rid of the rather weak .44 rimfire cartridge. Instead, it was chambered for the .44-40, a really powerful centerfire round. However, it was not just the power round for round that made this cartridge so interesting. Instead, it was a pistol cartridge. Now, in the nomenclature of that time, a revolver was a pistol, and it would today be seen as a revolver cartridge. What it allowed the people of its time to do was to carry both this wonderful rifle and a sidearm chambered in the same cartridge. There was only one kind of ammo to carry, for which could be swapped between both without any problem. Increasing the appeal of this gun even further was a practice Winchester introduced in 1875. The company started to select barrels of the Model 1873 that was the most accurate. It then built complete guns around them with set triggers and a finish that was extra nice. To that came an engraving saying, 1 of 1,000. Being the sniper rifles of its time, these rifles sold for $100, which is more than $2,300 today. All in all, 720,000 Winchester Model 1873 were produced until its production was discontinued in 1923. However, that's not the end of the story, as Winchester reintroduced this beauty again with much fanfare in 2013. Number 7. Winchester Model 1886. The Winchester Model 1886 was designed by John M. Browning. It has been called the American version of the British Express rifle. It is heavy and powerful, flattening everything in its path, exactly what you would need in most situations. The action-add trigger is smooth, as it's made from glass, which is very hard to find nowadays, but a sign of the quality guns were made in those days. While it does come out of the halls of a factory, it does not change the fact that each gun was handmade. The original chamberings included 4570, 4590, 4082, and 5110 Express. It also made the transition from black powder to smokeless powder. This could be done thanks to the locking block action, which was strong enough for the new propellant. The Winchester Model 1886 stayed in continuous production until 1935. By that time, 160,000 of them were made. Even Teddy Roosevelt owned one of them, and he loved it. In 1998, this rifle was reintroduced by Winchester. Number 6. Winchester 1887 Shotgun. Winchester had quite some good experience with lever-action guns when it tried their luck with the shotguns for the first time. It's no surprise that this shotgun followed the same path of success by being a lever-action gun. The idea was simple. As lever guns ruled the day, why try something else? This lever-action shotgun was offered in 12-gauge and in 10-gauge. There was also something you might want to call a tactical shotgun in the form of a ride gun. Number 5. Winchester Model 1894. The Winchester Model 1894 is the lever-action rifle that over time became practically the deer rifle. It was designed by John M. Browning. While being developed as a black powder gun, its introduction in 1895 necessitated to make the transition for smokeless powder. For that, it came out chambered for the new smokeless round, 30 Winchester center fire, later called the 30-30. It also the gun which created the impression still prevailing today that all lever-action rifles are chambered at 30-30. In its day, the Model 1894 was handy, light, and short. This allowed it to be carried around with no problem. It could be drawn easily out of a saddle scabbard, and it fired very fast. There was not much recoil to be felt, and it was reliable. While it was not the most accurate rifle then, it was the most deadly one based on the amount of bullets it could send down range within a few seconds. These characteristics made for an incredible popularity. It was the first commercial sporting rifle that ever sold more than 7 million copies. The production continued until 2006, but the break did not last long. Already in 2010, Winchester reintroduced this great rifle. Number 4. The Browning BLR. The tubular magazine of lever guns limit them to use ammo that is not necessarily the best when it comes to ballistics, seriously limiting range. The Browning Model 81 BLR, the Browning lever-action rifle, found a way around this. It used a series of gears, pinion racks, and a removable box magazine. The result was that pointed bullets were no problem anymore. Today, you can shoot, for example, .338 Winchester Magnum and the .22-250 out of it. Number 3. The Savage Model 99. The Savage Model 99 was a rifle that was just ahead of its time. It was hammerless, and it used a rotating spool magazine instead of the tubular one. Later, the magazine was even made detachable, greatly speeding up the reloading process. More importantly, the rotating magazine allowed the use of Spitzer bullets, while tubular magazines demand the use of flat or round points, making for terrible ballistics. Spitzer bullets allowed for more range and more punch at greater distances. Furthermore, the construction of the rifle permitted the use of high-intensity cartridges. The trigger was good and the ejection was to the side. This way, a scope could be mounted on top. Also, it was super reliable and way more accurate than other lever-action rifles. It was chambered for a great variety of cartridges, but one of them stands out, the .250 3000 Savage. It pushed a bullet with a weight of 87 grains to a muzzle velocity of 3,000 feet per second. The Model 99 was produced from 1899 to 1998. Today, it can be found as a second handgun in all calibers and conditions. Number 2. The Marlin 1895. The Marlin 1895 is a gun that just did not want to die, bringing it back in all 4 incarnations. Started in 1897, being produced for the next 22 years. Only 18,000 of them were made, so that it's no surprise that it was discontinued. In 1972, it got its second chance when Marlin introduced it again. This time based on the frame of the Model 336. It was chambered in .4570. This is not only a very powerful cartridge, it also became quite popular at the time of the reintroduction of the Model 1895. The .4570 was powerful enough to drop any game while at the same time bringing little recoil to the table. This all got even better when Hornady introduced its Lever Revolution ammo with plastic Spitzer tips, allowing them to be loaded into tubular magazines. This turned this gun from a 150-yard rifle into a 300-yard rifle. After its second run, the Model 1895 became a customized gun being produced until Marlin itself was at its end when Remington, the parent company, went down. Now Ruger, after buying Marlin in 2020, introduced a new version in 2022, the 1895 SBL. Number 1. The Marlin Model 39A. The Marlin Model 39A is the go-to rifle when it comes to shooting .22 rimfires. In fact, it was the oldest shoulder-fired gun in continuous production till the bankruptcy of Remington. It started its production run as the Model 1891 and was even used by Annie Oakley. It developed into the Model 1892 and then into the Model 1897. Then it turned into the Model 39A, and from that into the Model 39A Golden. All in all, 2.2 million of them were made. If you buy one, you get a lever-action rifle with a good balance and a very good look, and that is deadly reliable. The accuracy is excellent, and you can use short, long, or long rifle ammo interchangeably. Is there a downside? Yeah, these rifles do not come cheap. However, if you look for a perfect shooter, that is the gun to go to. These are the best 10 lever-action rifles ever made. If you think we forgot one, please put it into the comments and let us know why you think it belongs on this list.